We're very excited about Dreamforce to you and all of the experiences that have been happening this whole month. But I feel like we're really leading up to the grand finale here with the Dream TX series of events and sessions that are happening next week. And we wanted to help rally together, our group of education users and nonprofit users and make sure everyone is just really ready to maximize on this opportunity. And just for a few housekeeping items, we're going to record the session so people can be available to people afterwards. If you have questions, you're welcome to pop them into the chat. If it kind of makes sense to answer them in the moment, we'll do that since, I love having a good conversation. Otherwise, we'll hold them to the end if it feels like we should have some more dedicated time to certain things. And if for anybody that may have received multiple email reminders for the event, apologies there. Can't express enough how excited we are for Dreamforce. So that expression got translated to email reminders. So thank you for bearing with us. And let's get rolling here. All right, and just to formally introduce myself, my name is Claire Lewis. I'm a senior Salesforce consultant here at Ferrilli. I worked in higher education for about 10 years, mostly in admissions, financial aid, marketing, before I really got bit by the Salesforce bug and kind of took my student passion to the back of the house, working with Salesforce and education in tandem, and I've greatly enjoyed doing that. I'm also thrilled to welcome Nell Paye, who is here, our special guest. Nell is a business architect from Salesforce, but really more impressive to me than that is she has a really extensive background over a decade of serving our nonprofit community, from her own nonprofits to others, and has a really great eye for business analysis and organizational strategy. So she seemed like a great person to be able to help talk to, especially our nonprofit audience, about how to get ready for Dream TX. So thanks for joining us, Nell.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Like Claire said, I love the .org products, and I really want to make sure that we really help you understand what Dreamforce is and really, translate all the different potential that you will be able to find in all the sessions that's available, even though it doesn't scream education or nonprofit. There's a lot of value there that you can get out of Dreamforce.
Exactly. And there's that famous Salesforce forward-looking statement. So this is just simply reminding us, please make any Salesforce purchasing decisions based on features and functionality that exist today, and not things that we're anticipating to come. But just like Nell and I said, again, our purpose for bringing people together today was to make sure everyone was feeling like Dream TX felt accessible. Everyone was very excited to know Dreamforce was still on. It's free, it's virtual, but at the same time, if you've ever been to a Salesforce event, whether it's in person or virtual, it can be a little intimidating, a little daunting to navigate. We really just didn't want anyone to go it alone. So we took a pretty deep dive into the agenda, wanted to share out what we're feeling excited about, and then also just kind of establish contact with one another too. So as the event is going on next week, we can continue to give feedback about sessions that are happening and really great conversations that we want everyone to be a part of. So again, thanks for kind of coming on the journey with us. And not to dwell too much on the differences between, past Dreamforces and what we're expecting this year for Dream TX, because I think what's really important, which remains, is kind of the heart of the Dreamforce experience, which is really being able to make connections and to get insights that can fuel you as you continue to work and develop in Salesforce, throughout this whole next year. And I know it's possible to be able to still get that from a virtual conference because Nell and I met at the virtual Salesforce Higher Ed Summit this year. I kept this call out a secret from her. But I was a presenter at the Higher Ed Summit. And right before, Nell reached out to me and said she was looking forward to my session. I reached back out to her. And one of the, I would say my greatest takeaways from that conference is that Nell and I just made that connection, because maybe right in that moment of the conference, we didn't have, kind of like an idea to exchange, or we weren't working on the same thing, but by just being in connection with each other, we just later saw our paths were starting to cross more. So again, it's okay that we're not all in San Francisco together. It's still really possible to get a lot out of a virtual event. And like I mentioned at the beginning, Dreamforce to You is technically started. We had a great keynote last week. So I'm going to pass it over to Nell, who's going to kind of call out some of the things that were spoken to during the keynote in case you missed it, but more importantly, kind of let us know what some of those messages mean really for our education and nonprofit communities.
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk about terminology. I know in the keynote, we really talked about Customer 360, Einstein Industries, all these different key terms that exist in Salesforce, especially in the .com product. But I wanted to be able to have a conversation and say that when you hear anything that has to do with employees, whether it's connecting your employees or job relations or PR, anything like that, you really want to start to think about all that great offering that they promote to employees. You want to think about it as a student, right? You want to think about the way companies manage, interact, empower, and support their employees. It's the same way that colleges that are doing the same thing to their students as well. So you want to be able to just kind of plug in students when you hear employees. The same thing about industry as well. So you think about the different ways that you customize how you communicate with different programs within your university, or different departments within your university, or even within your nonprofit, right? So any functionality that is geared towards industry can really be duplicated and implemented within your university and nonprofits via your program and your program differentiations. And so that's kind of, I think this is where this conversation is going to go today, to really have you thinking about all the great services that exist and not being left out. I know that this is the next slide, but I see that we have sales here. And when you think about sales, you're really thinking about enrollment, right? You're thinking about the admissions team. You're thinking about the teams now not only communicating via marketing, communications, events, really trying to engage with the students and understand, not only what they want, but why they should be in your university, right? Why they should donate to you. All that role is really a sales role, right? And so you want to be able to start to, again, put that filter in to say, when I see sales, when I see the functionality, when I see sales team and stuff like that, I'm really thinking about my admissions team. I'm really thinking about even my alumni team that actually engage with alumni and trying to get enhancement and funding and support. Is that really trying to sell your brands, trying to sell your mission, your university, and your organization? And with service, you want to think about case study, you want to think about the advisory group, you want to think about any opportunity that you have in your university that you're serving your students. Self-service, right? Frequently asked questions, where are my programs in it? Cases that you document with your students. All those things are done in service, in ServiceCloud, and all those things are service opportunity. All those things are retention, et cetera. So just kind of moving forward in our presentation is pointing out these other classes, and really after getting back your surveys, saying, hey, you want to go to a service workshop based on your needs, and really having you understand that, like, we're recommending service for you because you're really thinking about how do you serve students? How do you document cases? How do you make sure that if you see a student who's doesn't look like they're going to graduate in 4 years, but they will in 5 years. How do you document that in the case and promote that and promote your 5-year program towards them, right? All that stuff is done in ServiceCloud, done with ServiceCloud functionalities. So I think those are the key things that the keynote brought out, and we wanted to translate it as it relates to the .com products. And so then really, again, it's really about personalizing your connection with Salesforce across the board. And really knowing that like Salesforce has a clear 360, this customer 360, students 360. So a lot of us understand that like, even though we're in one department, our entire goal is to make sure that we understand our students, we understand our participants, our donor in their complexity in order for us to serve them better, right? In order for us to move forward with our missions. So that's really what Dreamforce is about this year. And so when we're doing those personalized meetings, is having you be able to communicate that to those to those people hosting that meeting, and being able to mix your the different clouds and the different services that might be outside of HITA or outside of nonprofit cloud moving forward. So I think we have a survey that we're going to send out to really ask you about your pain points. What solutions are you trying to solve in your universities and in your colleges? And in your nonprofit organization, and having us point you to these different services that might be able to help you, but most importantly, giving you talking points to go to that personalized meetings for you to go ahead and talk about the experience and talk about it kind of in a language where you can get the best out of those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know I took this survey or this quiz myself, but luckily if you're not even sure, like Nell was saying, of how to pull together your language and your needs, Salesforce has this really great tool out right now. So I've done it a few times. I've enjoyed it.
I've done it too, even though I'm not in actually in the org, but I've done it just to kind of help out organizations that I'm working with. So even I'm working with Salesforce right now, but I volunteer a lot with nonprofits, basically in Rhode Island, but I'm open up to helping elsewhere, but really kind of taking that survey, understanding what products exist, because there's so much out there, and giving that information to the clients or the volunteers that I've been working with has been really helpful. So I really encourage you to go ahead and take that survey, so you just see where you are right now, and then work with that personalized meetings and with Claire to try to get you to where you need to be.
Great, thank you so much, Nell. Well, let's dive deeper into the agenda as we're seeing it for next week then, for the DreamTX experience. So if you are anything like me, when the sessions came out, you went in right away, you hit that industry filter for education and nonprofit. You didn't have to scroll through too many results to see there was 2 really great standouts when it came to education and nonprofit communities. This again doesn't mean these are the only sessions for us. We're going to kind of peel back some of those layers for other sessions right after this. But one thing I do want to make sure people are going into these specific sessions with is just sort of an understanding of some of the key products that are really driving education users today and nonprofit users today. So for example, Cornell and University of Michigan, they are both on Salesforce Education Cloud. They're using the education data architecture. And so in their presentation, when they're talking about some of the features that they have in their Salesforce, what we may refer to as like education cloud solutions. And so you might hear terms like Salesforce Advisor Link, the new Admissions Connect, or gift entry management. Those all are built on the foundation of EDA, that education cloud architecture. And I'm just calling this out because it doesn't mean it's not relevant for you to be at a session where maybe some of these solutions are being talked about. It just may mean you have one more step to do. You might have a little bit more homework to do in how your organization is using Salesforce, if ultimately you're looking to build on some of these additional layers. So I just wanted to make sure that's called out to people. And very similarly on the nonprofit side, if you're looking for new ways to really engage, volunteers, fundraising efforts, giving pages, your program management, that's going to be leveraging your nonprofit starter pack or the NPSP. And so if that's something that you don't have right now, that's similar to the education folks, NPSP is kind of your first stop in getting that foundation built for you. So I just wanted people to kind of keep those things in mind, since Dreamforce is really great about all the new bells and whistles, but we just really want to make sure you're aware of whether or not your foundation is there to kind of support those new things going on top. But I don't want to spend too much time diving into the sessions that kind of look specifically for our communities, because again, we kind of wanted to help uncover maybe some hidden gems in this agenda. So I'm going to kind of jump into the next part here, which is really calling out sessions that stood out to Nell and I, the things that we're getting really excited for. And Nell said this at the beginning. Again, if you see SalesCloud in your agenda, this most likely is our admissions recruiters, gift officers, volunteer managers. If you're using objects in Salesforce like opportunities, leads, campaigns, whether you know it or not, you are probably on SalesCloud. So that's a great keyword to look for in your agenda. The first session that really stood out to me, this deliver hot leads amidst distraction. Vanessa Hepner, who is presenting, she is Pardot Wizard. She's crazy about small businesses, and she's been putting a lot of content out there lately about virtual event strategies. So especially for our folks in the house that are, again, like marketers, recruiters, are kind of your very top of the funnel trying to bring in new interest. I think this session is shaping up to look really good for individuals like that, sort of like your must-love email, must-love events. And who knew that students could be a distracted audience, right? I think all of us know that. So I think this one is really sounding good for those reasons.
I just want to go back to the hot leads and just mention that, like, so when you think hot leads, you think students or donors or benefactors that actually have engaged with your organization, with your college, right? Students that have reached out, students that have parents that are alumni, siblings that are currently in there, students that have been to your events, students that your coaches have engaged with. So these hot leads are people you know that exists, that knows about your college, your nonprofit, etc., have reached out before, have some type of link. They're hot in a way that they're not just names on a file that you've gotten, right? So I know that a lot of colleges might buy leads of students who are graduating and kind of market out to them. So those won't be hot leads, right? Hot leads are people that actually engage with your organization, that you know that they exist, that you have some type of relationship that you can link into. If you're looking at the possibility of whether or not they will apply or be the best fit, they would be above, I would say 75% that they actually accept your invite to join your organization or your invite to donate or your invite to enroll. So this is very, very important, I think, for admission staff to really be able to kind of go to this class to say, okay, we want our missions people to start thinking like salespeople, right? What do we do when we actually know a student have been engaged with us? How do we reach people that we've already had relationships with, right? What are some things that the salespeople are doing that we can in turn do internally for us to be able to get those students out, for them to not only be hot, but also be within, like, accept our applications. So I think this one was, for me, really exciting. I think a lot of people right now, colleges and stuff, are really trying to figure out how to engage people, right? And you can't really invite them on campus anymore and have these big things, but what else out there that you can really tune in? And those students that know you exist are going to probably be your best bet at this point, because now that things are virtual, they have the options have opened up more than they were before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point. It's a lot of times what people are experiencing today, it isn't a matter of I don't have enough people to call. Sometimes it's I don't know the right person to call. You know, if I can contact 2 students in the next hour, if I can reach out to 2 donors, how can I make that decision really quickly so I use my time wisely? So yeah, that emphasis on hot is really helpful for people working strategically, that's for sure. And that kind of dives a little bit into the next session that I think was looking really strong. I mean, first and foremost, you can't attend Dreamforce without going to one session that promises a sneak peek. So this was the sneak peek at new things that are coming out with SalesCloud 360. But I think besides, again, the grand reveal of maybe what's to come, the purpose of this session is to really help focus on agility of how people are working. So if you have priorities that are constantly shifting, if people's needs are constantly shifting, if we're in a world that is unpredictable, how can you still move forward and move strategically with all of those changing factors? And so what I'm anticipating from this session and what the SalesCloud 360 is really focused on is kind of how you can manage your work in that type of environment. So I think this is going to be a really great one. If you're managing a team, like if you have a team of admissions recruiters or advisors, volunteer managers, this might be a really great one for you to kind of put on that strategic analytical hat and dive a little bit more into how to work with some of the complexities that we're all experiencing today.
Yeah, I really like this one too, because this screams Student 360 for me, right? So not only within your internal group, but now that everything's remote, how do you create a team that's a student success team, I would think, right? From admissions people all the way to like the alumni people, the advisory group, the coach, anyone that touches the students and really get them to the success, which is graduation. How do we create a team around that to be able to help them, right? So Advisory Link really push onto this, but if you haven't gotten a Advisory Link yet, just know that HEDA is built on Sales and Service Cloud, right? So you kind of already have that functionality or have the ability to create that functionality. So really going to this session, understanding what it is and taking that information, going to your account manager, going to your partner, Salesforce partner, Claire, to really say, okay, this is what I learned from Tools 360. We might not have Advisory Link, which kind of is that, like, you know, Students 360 Advisory Link has the student team in there as well. But how can we create something similar to this, right? That would be really helpful moving forward.
Yeah. And then I know we have some heavy Service Cloud users in the house as well. So I wanted to do some call outs on the Service Cloud side of the house. So when I hear Service Cloud, I think cases. But of course, there's more. You might be using Knowledge to manage articles and FAQs. Omnichannel is available for people as well. If you manage a call center or any other kind of like high volume team where you're working in a help desk mentality, Service Cloud is probably your home base when you're logging into Salesforce. So for our first one here, what I'm really loving about this session is it's focused on how small teams can deliver big. So I'm hearing from a lot of clients right now that case volume is just so high and the solution can't be, let's get more staff to manage cases, right? We need to find a way to help get that volume down without staffing up, which is 100% doable with something like Salesforce. So I'm very much looking forward to that efficiency theme within this session and how to do more with less. The presenter for this session, Mala Ravi, she is specifically works with small businesses as her role in Salesforce. And so she knows a lot about how to do less with more. And I know we also have some University of Washington folks in the house. Mala is a graduate of your iSchool. So this is also a great opportunity to be able to go support one of your alumni in a really great session that I think is pretty relevant for folks around this time.
Yeah, and for me, this session screams like knowledge, like the knowledge object, and frequently asked questions. I know I'm always been in a position, like if I have to answer this question one more time, like if I get one more email about like, where do I register for class? I'm just gonna like, and even though that information may exist on your website, you wanna be able to leverage the knowledge object for frequently asked questions, especially if you already have a student portal. And if you don't have a student portal, get a student portal. Like, get on Community Cloud, get a student portal. I don't know how yeah, like with life without a student portal is possible moving forward. But yeah, it's really being able to leverage ServiceCloud to put in those cases, to ask the frequently asked questions for students to kind of even be empowered, right? To say, hey, I have this, can you really help me? Being able to pull that up and move it forward. I think this is exactly what it's going to be about: meeting customers' expectations, meeting students' expectations, right? I can't walk into like my counselor's office anymore to ask the basic questions, right? I need to be able to find information. I need to be able to find information quickly. And no like ding to the young millennials, but the longer I have to like search online to try to figure out one question, my attention span is gone, right? And so having something that like Knowledge Cloud, where information is fast, available and easily accessible, is going to be really important to be able to feed that. And then also service, again, with the advisory and the mentors and all that other stuff in cases, having students understand that they don't have to say multiple things, the same thing to multiple people, is going to be really important. And so being able to create a case that says, Nell has called in and she asked about her grades, and and this is what she's concerned about. If I reach in again to another person, I expect them to know that I've had this conversation with this first person, right? And so to be able to read that case file and say, okay, hey, now you call in last Monday and about your cases, were you able to register on your class? If not, I see it here, let me really be able to help you, right? So you have to be able to think about, like, if I'm part of T-Mobile and they're always just like, where are your service people? I see here, and they be able to read. And I feel like they really care about me because they have all my past experiences, right? That's kind of what you have to step up to, especially as a college now being virtual. And also, nonprofits as well, like being able to collect cases from your participant and people that you're serving, and for them to understand that you understand them and that you care and you're keeping data, so that way they're not wasting time saying the same thing over and over again. Is really going to be important. So I think that's what that session is aiming for, and I think that's kind of one of the ones that I put up there, because I don't see us engaging with students effectively without ServiceCloud.
For sure. And I think for sometimes if people aren't even sure, can I be working more efficiently? Like, how do I even know if things like that are possible? Like, what's a good candidate for achieving more efficiency with cases? A really great place to start, especially if you're a manager, is by asking your users, are there certain things when you see a type of case comes in that you always do? So I always get this question. The first thing I do is I change the case to this status, and then I copy and paste this template, and then I send the response. Like, if there are things that are happening in pattern, that's usually a really great kind of like ding, ding, ding moment that is a potential automation that can be done. Because we want to reserve our really valuable staff who are communicating with constituents. Their biggest value is personalization and being able to have a one-on-one conversation, not the fact that they're really great at inserting templates over and over and over again. So efficiency all the way with that one. And it kind of dovetails into this other Service Cloud session that was standing out to us as well, because this is really about thinking through how do you work with multiple channels of communication. We're hearing a lot right now, probably across all industries, email fatigue. It's always been there. It's even there more now that we're losing some of the in-person connectivity. But what's really great about Service Cloud is, I would say, that the deep focus on you want to have multiple channels of communication. So that could look like your cases, right? Your email, but what about also receiving messages via Facebook, via Twitter? What about live chat? What about forms on your website? You can have all of these things. You can have that multi-channel experience without your staff leaving one interface in Salesforce, which is huge because a lot of times people hear new channel and it sounds like that's one other place I have to go to check something, right? But like Nell was saying, people are expecting that they're contacting us multiple times in multiple different ways. That story is going to get strung together. And I think that's something everyone needs to be thinking about if you're trying to start a multi-channel strategy is, are you setting things up the right way in Salesforce to ensure that you're not putting more work on your staff or you're not making things more complex, kind of by default for your customers. There's also a promise of a radio host that's co-hosting this session. I have no idea how that fits in, but I really can't wait to find out. And so this maybe will be a little bit of a peppier session for that reason. Maybe some background music. We'll have to wait and see. But for me, yeah, these were the standouts for our Service Cloud folks. Although there are some other sessions that were out there too. And then we have kind of our analytical folks in the house. You might be sort of like your department manager, maybe your director, or even for people that just really love making those data-driven decisions and kind of live and breathe by your reports. There's a really great session, which is actually, it's going to talk a little bit more about this recent kind of marriage between Einstein Analytics and Tableau, which is Einstein Analytics is now going to be referred to as Tableau CRM. It will take a while to kick in, but I've been told the little Einstein is not going anywhere. The Einstein AI products, they are remaining, but they are being rebranded under Tableau. But if you aren't familiar at all with what Einstein Analytics was to begin with, a lot of schools we've seen are really turning to Einstein Analytics to be able to draw more student stories and conclusions out of your data and reports. So the very classic example we talk about with a lot of schools is when it comes to your admissions funnel reporting, or for nonprofits, if you're really trying to look year over year at like your volunteer volume at a certain event. Analytics is really great for that. It's hard for the standard Salesforce report to say how many students were in an applied status on this day last year, because right now those students aren't in that status anymore. So Einstein really takes more of that 360 view, is really spending more time with that historical data to make sure you can slice and dice things, even to a more specific degree. And the other really cool thing about Tableau CRM, Einstein Analytics, is if you are on some of those analytic dashboards that you've built, so if you have built yourself a dashboard or a report that's showing you, for example, students that have not registered yet for fall semester, or donors that made a pledge that ultimately have not made the final donation, you can identify who those people are and you can contact them without ever leaving the report, which I think is the coolest thing. I was so used to like, I'm going to make my report. Okay, now I'm going to copy my list. I'm going to send the message. So one of the really powerful things about Tableau CRM is you don't have to leave that report to take action on your data. So reports become a whole different meaning for users. And so if you're not familiar with analytics at all, I think this is still looking like a really great session to get more familiar with. And then I would definitely recommend additional research as well in case this one does kind of dive in pretty quickly. But I honestly can't think of anyone that wouldn't get a lot out of powerful tools like this. And so it's a really great thing to get more familiar with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything. I think I'm a data geek, and so everything I do is so that I can get clean data, so I can do reporting on. And I think that this is so important. I recommend that everyone goes through it because that's what you're really going to need, right? Your data and data literacy really allows you to understand the personhood of the people that you're being engaged with, right? And so especially for nonprofits, so many times we relied on that story, right? And you want to look at your data like your logic model. You want to look at that outcomes, right? Result-based outcome. What are you doing? How well they're doing, who's better off, and how are they better off, right? And so in that nonprofit terms, it's like, how are they better off might take a long time to try to figure out. Like, it's like a 6 months to like 2, 3, 10 years measurement that you really have to do. If I attended your tutoring program, how do you know that I'm actually impacted by that tutoring? You have to look at my grades. You have to look at what my grades were when I came in, what my grades were when I was after, and what my grades are, 2 years from now when I'm in a different school and et cetera. And being able to send out surveys to answer that and having the reporting analytics to show that growth, right? But most importantly is when it comes to donors, right? I'm really flaky of like how I donate. A lot of times I'm like, I'm going to donate my time rather than like money, but sometimes I donate randomly, right? Financially, but I might not engage with you all the time. I always engage with people who engage back with me, whether it's capacity building or just kind of financial donations. And it's about looking at to say, hey, Nell donated with us in 2018, and then she did it in 2016. She donates every 2 years, right? You can be able to look at that data from my past engagement with you guys and say, hey, Nell, like, it's close to are you done with your 2 years hiatus with us? Come back, right? You can use those type of languages to kind of really, again, tell me that you understand me, right? Or re-engage back with people and say, okay, these are the people that constantly donate. These are the people that have gaps. This is how we need to reach out. All that information comes from reporting, as well as colleges as well. Like, your information, your data can tell you so much, not only about the students, but about where they're going, how well they're doing in class, all that extra stuff. I think the only thing that I have to say about data, your data is only as good as your processes that you use to gather them, right? So you really want to make sure that if you are like, you're going to need to increase your data literacy and really understand storytelling through data, or how to make data-driven decision, but most importantly, understanding what data you need and how to collect that data, and having that conversation with your account managers at Salesforce, as well as your partner, as IS partners like Claire, and saying that like these are the things that's really important to us. And the finance department, these are the information that we really need to gather, and having them really design a solution that's going to get you that information in order for you to make these data decisions, right? Other than that, like, you're not going to have it, right? You won't be able to, like,
you buy the Ferrari, but if you don't fill the tank, you're going to be
it, right? Yeah.
So that clean data is really going to be like your rocket fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and making sure, and clean data, making sure that you're collecting the same data, utilizing the same tool. So, and really understanding like permission sets and stuff like that. If you have a feel for like GPA, for example, and finance team needs GPA, the admissions team needs GPA, the counselors need GPAs, there only should be one GPA field, right? Because you don't want people changing fields and using 5 different fields to show the same information. Instead, you want to give them 3 or 5 different permission sets to be able to access that one field to move forward. So I think that conversation about data literacy, about clean data, about how you collect your data is going to be your first step to really appreciating what Einstein and what Tableau CRM is going to have to offer. Yeah. And again, reaching out to your partners who, like Claire and your account managers to really give you examples of what this means. I think that it was best bet is to saying, hey, can we get best practices, right? We saw this at Dreamforce, or Nell and Claire mentioned this at that, and we really want to give us an examples of what this can do for us. Will be your best bet, and then working on how do you implement data literacy and collecting clean data and getting rid of like duplicated fields and stuff like that. If you know me, I have a thing about duplicated fields. That like you really need to do that to really be able to get what you need to get.
Right, and I think that's a really good point. Like, it's sometimes going to Salesforce events, I get distracted by like how much I feel like I could still do in Salesforce, but really try to think of things. If you're going to sessions and you feel like I don't even know how we'd get there, don't worry about the how. Like, start tracking these things as goals, and like Nell said, we can always work backwards. You can work backwards from there, but knowing this is something you want to work towards, even walking away from a Salesforce event with that in mind, that's a victory. You don't have to walk away knowing how you're going to do it. But finding synergy and finding things that are speaking to you and your organization is a great success.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Your account managers are really there for you, right?
For sure.
Honestly, like I've not being a Salesforce employee and being like a consultant and even working for organizations, like your account manager is literally there to make sure that you're successful and is working with you to bring the whole Salesforce at your door, and working with your partners like Claire to be able to say, this is the best solution for us to make our clients successful, right? So I think that you really have to leverage them. You really have to go and say, I've learned this at Dreamforce, or and building that connection with other team. This is what happened, and really bringing that back and saying, is this possible, right? Do you have any examples? What else can we do to really be able to help? Or we're paying someone to do our analytics report. Is that something that Salesforce can do? Having those conversations, not really worry about the how, but where is it possible, and having your partners, your implementation or consultant partner, and bringing in your account managers to have that discussion. I promise you that like it will be possible, and it will be something that you need to do, and making sure that your colleagues and your organization is ready for that type of work as well, because they can design the most perfect solution for you, but if the end user is not putting in the data, if you guys don't have that process cleared out, you're not going to get the best out of the platform, or any platform that you have at your organization.
Yeah, it's collaborative efforts, that's for sure. So we have one more session call out, and then we also just wanted to put some attention on a couple of speakers that we think should be on everyone's radar. So for the last session call out, we're going to make, we've got another name change. Community Cloud, as it was previously known, is now being referred to as Experience Cloud. So Experience Cloud is all about your foundation for your websites, for portals, for mobile experiences, especially when in today's age where digital engagement is more important now than ever. We've seen a lot of nonprofits, a lot of schools turn to Experience Cloud as a solution, whether it's a home base for articles for students, or something as extensive as it's housing your applications, it's housing your giving pages. You have live interactive abilities, like if you're using live chat or you have Chatter. Experience Cloud can do a whole range of things. This is a great one to really do some pre-vision work if you're thinking about what could best serve you on Experience Cloud, because it is going to be so vast. But the two things that I would call out is if you're looking for ways to have more meaningful one-on-one interactions, that solution could be in an Experience Cloud. If you are quite the opposite and you're sort of saying, we're getting this blown over by people contacting us, we need to be better about putting information out there so individuals don't have to ask the question first. There's a lot of really great self-service capabilities within Experience Cloud as well. So this is a really great session. I love any sessions that kind of call out like a top 5 or like a hit list of these are the things you could do in this tool, especially when it can do so much. So I think this will be a great one for Experience Cloud. It's going to take a while. Oh, you're on mute, Nell.
I'm already geeking out about Experience Cloud by myself. Total advocate for Experience Cloud, Community Cloud. Just at the very bare minimum, having an opportunity to empower your students to get information and get engaged for themselves is worth having a student portal and utilizing Experience Cloud in its very bare minimum, because you really have to think about how do you connect with someone, right? How are you presenting yourself, and how are you projecting yourself? Most importantly, how are you providing your students with that college experience that they no longer have, right? And you're doing that through Experience Cloud. Nowhere else. Like how are you going to like I went to Johnson & Wales. Like I still think I'm a wildcat because of my experience that I have, because of the connections that I've been with, because of the groups that I'm in, and those experiences last with you, we all know, forever. But so if they can't come on campus, right, and we installed in our students and within our donors, right, that is not the physical space that you're coming to, but you're creating this community, this family that lasts long, and that we're here for you. If you're not leveraging Experience Cloud and you don't have a portal, you're not really doing that, right? Because then there's no difference between whether I go to your university or whether I donate to your nonprofit than if I do somebody else, right? So that inclusiveness comes through Community Cloud. That we talked about the knowledge object earlier, and having to be able to go into my portal, ask my questions, pull that up, information, and I'm just kind of done. That engagement, that accessibility is sufficient enough, right? Or just kind of being able to log into something and be able to see all my data, right? So I might even have a questions about like, what's my grade? What's my next class? Yeah, when is my counselor available? And through Community Cloud or to Experience Cloud, I can see all that information. Like, okay, my counselor Bob, he's available. Okay, cool. I'm gonna schedule my appointment with him by myself. I don't need to call anyone to do that, right? Or let me look at right now I'm in grad school, and like there are like 4 like different ways for me to get information. Right? I was like, golly, like I have to go to one site. Yeah. I have to go to one site for like financial and pay my bills and etc. I have to go to another site to like register for classes and to look at my career plan and my program plan. I have to go to another site if I want to like actually go and do my work and talk to my my academic stuff. And I'm just like, and then to communicate, I have to go through like my emails to kind of communicate, or just simple stuff like me just chatting with my advisor, or me just like chatting with anyone. It involves like a full-blown email. And I'm just like, golly, like half the things that I want to do or to engage with the school, I don't, because I have to remember that. So having that experience where I can go into one portal and be able to see all that information is going to be so much better, especially for students, for undergrads who are already feeling cheated, right? And we don't want to give them more work. And for if you look at the nonprofit experience as well, like we have people like me who I don't necessarily don't donate financially, but I donate to like capacity building, right? I like, let me go, if you need like a system build, if you need like me to do some Excel work, if you need anything that like requires hands-on experience, or like my intellectual capital and stuff like that, I'm all for it. But to actually find that, not only do I have to go to your website, but then it's like hands-on this and that. There's so many different ways that I really don't know what to do. But if I'm consistent with you, to be able to have a place to say, this is how much I donated, especially with tax season, I'm like, okay, I donate to you. It's automatic once a month. I give you da-da-da. Where's that information, right? How can I just get that information for myself without having to email anyone? Or how can I get information from your organization as a loyal participant? Or even if I'm a benefactor of yours, like where am I getting my information from? So you kind of really want to think about creating that experience virtually and creating that community virtually. It's what Experience Cloud is all about. Like
All about communities, even
it's
when
all about communities. Yeah, and having a good community too, and really, again, understanding what they want to see. And every community could be, portal would be different, right? Based on the information that they want to see, based on how you want to engage with them, but most important, based on what they want to see. I really want to see the new Experience Cloud. I want to see their 5 innovations. But I also really am interested to seeing, and if you go, you should go to this session. And if you go to the sessions and you have any questions or any like terminology, translations and anything, reach out to Claire. You can feel free to reach out to me. If you reach out to me, I'm most likely going to like forward you to your account manager. So only because I need more details than anything. And the account manager already knows you, that they're your Salesforce representative. And so reaching out to your account manager and saying like, can you really explain this to me? How can I implement this in my school? What are best practices do I need? I already have Community Cloud. What can I be doing better? Like, like these conversations is what they're there for. But I don't see, even if it's not a virtual world, I don't see us being successful in engaging and personalizing experience without utilizing Experience Cloud.
Yeah, it's definitely central. I'm just being mindful of time, so I want to call out 2 presenters really quick that I think should be on everyone's radar. And then we'll open it up in case people have some questions or even just their own call out of what they're looking forward to. So if we have anyone in the audience, like maybe our career service folks or our kind of corporate engagement, if you do anything that is related to, again, like career service or workforce development, Tiffany Spencer is just absolutely amazing.
Okay.
She founded her own organization, HBCU Force, where she's just really working with colleges and universities, students that are graduating out from the historical Black colleges and universities, and helping them see the connection between the knowledge they already have and the potential in making a career with Salesforce. She's really, really great about creating those bridges and seeing connections across community. So if any part of your role has to do with that sort of bridge between your organization and another company or the larger community, she's a really great person to know and to follow. I let her know I was giving her a big shout out. So if you decide to go stalk her, she knows to blame me. It's okay. But again, like whether you can make it to her session or not, she thinks she's one of 4 presenters in this one. So she might not be able to get into her story too much, but I really recommend keeping her on your loop, kind of in your radar for things. The other individual I wanted to call out, and this might again be like one of those hidden gem moments where Justice, he's one of the speakers within one of the welcome sessions. But he has a background that I think would be really appealing for our nonprofit folks. He is an IT director. He works for a nonprofit organization, but he's all about strategy. He really has made it his mission to ensure that the culture of the nonprofit and their goals can be achieved through the use of their technology, all the while having to navigate, keeping a really close eye on their revenue and their funding. So for me, he really stands out as someone who knows how to walk the line of being in a technical role in an organization that through and through is not technical. They have a very different mission. And he does a great job of helping them move forward and achieve what they need to do by leveraging Salesforce. And so this is one of the welcome sessions I'm really excited to go to, just to get to hear him speak a little bit more. So another person I wanted to throw out there. I'm just gonna whiz by this last slide. We'll follow up with some information. This is just a quick trailhead shout out for ways that you can help kind of prepare yourself in case you are meeting people at DreamTX and want to be able to kind of quickly get to your root issue or challenge of what you're there to solve. So we'll follow up with that, since I did want to leave time in case we do have a couple of questions. Again, we'll be following up with some more information. Please do keep in touch with us throughout next week as we are calling out things that we are seeing and experiencing at DreamTX. I can't be everywhere at once, and so I'm really excited to hunker down in a session, but also then follow up with people and hear about what they heard and what they saw. So please don't be a stranger in that regard, like Nell said as well. But at this point, just curious, does anybody have any questions either about a session we specifically called out, or if people are still looking for ways, especially if you are newer to Salesforce or folks that are just about to implement Salesforce, if you still feel like all of this went over your head. Just wanted to leave this last couple of minutes if we can help anybody feel even more prepared for what's going on next week. I saw a quick question that said, when is the Tableau session? So thanks for calling that out, Carrie. So each of the sessions, it looks like is offered at least 2 or 3 times. So I didn't pull out all of the times in the agenda, but if you search in the agenda for the name of the session, I'll scroll back. I'll scroll back. Let me scroll back to that one. So this was the Tableau and Einstein Analytics are coming together. So I'll follow up and send you the direct link, but yeah, for any of these session call outs, if you search for the name, you'll see that it's most of them are offered like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Time zones are being taken into consideration. And so like for the education session, for example, it's offered 3 times. I think most of us will be sleeping during 2 of them. And so you really want to make sure for that session that's not at 1 a.m. your time that you kind of have your calendar cleared. But yeah, really much looking forward to this Tableau one.
Yeah, like Claire said, just don't be a stranger. Just LinkedIn with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, happy to help, happy to give out suggestions. I will be following the hashtag and shouting out any sessions that I think the org people should really be interested in and kind of going at. And if you, again, have any questions, any best practices, anything that you really want me to help you figure out how to talk to your account managers to be able to solutionize for you, or how to talk to your implementation solution partner like Claire, happy to have those conversations with you to really get you to go there. And nonprofit people, like, I love you guys. Which education people, yeah, like I'm happy to help as well, but my background and better butter, and I could probably do nonprofit stuff in my sleep. So I'm happy to engage with anyone and help you guys really get that story together, get your pain points together, and make any suggestions that you need to take it to the people that you need to be able to implement those things for you.
For sure. Thank you. Again, thank you, Nell, for being able to join us. I know as a Salesforce employee, you are just like 100% like riding towards next week, working hard. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us, because like you said, nonprofit and education, we don't want anyone to feel left out or like they don't know how to approach next week. So hopefully this just gave you ideas and inspiration for where you can start. you can take these suggestions point blank, or maybe it was a really great way to know a session might not be great for you. But we're looking forward to following up with everybody, and happy Dream TX next week. We look forward to being there with all of you. Take care.
Bye, guys.